The United Kingdom began to develop Wasp and Snapper maritime drones to support Ukrainian capabilities in the Black Sea. Naval Technology reported on this. Both Snapper and Wasp are described as initiatives designed to bolster defense efforts in Ukraine, though further information on the scope and operational plans remains pending. In late January, during a government event, UK Secretary of State for Defence John Healey spoke about the completion of short-term development projects for 3 unknown weapons projects. Enhancing our own capabilities through Stormer and Starstreak, while Gravehawk, Snapper and Wasp have all been developed with breathtaking speed, John Healey said. Revealed in a pair of UK parliamentary written responses on February 4, 2025, UK Minister for Defence Procurement, Maria Eagle, made mention of Wasp and Snapper UMV programs, which themselves were apparently referenced in an ADS annual dinner by the UK Secretary of State for Defence, John Healey. The system is currently undergoing final testing, and further details will be set out in due course, Eagle stated. The maritime unmanned systems projects for Ukraine appear to be a continuation of a larger strategy to build up Ukraine's unmanned fleet. A month earlier, the United Kingdom announced the development of a universal maritime drone for Ukraine. The drone must serve as a reusable platform, be resistant to enemy electronic warfare systems, and be able to attack targets even in the event of signal loss. The drone will be equipped with at least 2 weapons that should hit the target for better effect. The UK has become the main country supplying unmanned boats to Ukraine, laying the foundation for new tactics for the Ukrainian fleet. Earlier, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the transfer of a new mobile air defence system to Ukraine. According to the head of the British government, the characteristics of the system in question will be able to match the needs of Ukraine.
US President Donald Trump is growing impatient with Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin, with his advisors plotting to force Russia to make concessions by tightening sanctions or lowering oil prices. The Wall Street Journal article says that Trump's intolerance toward Putin is growing. The American president and his advisors are making plans to force the Kremlin to make concessions in the context of potential negotiations with Ukraine. The instrument of pressure on Russia will be either increased sanctions or a decrease in oil prices. Journalists believe that if negotiations begin between Kiev and Moscow actually begin and are conducted in earnest, both sides will face a large number of difficult moments. If talks begin in earnest, both sides will face a host of thorny issues, including whether Russia will retain all the Ukrainian territory it seized in the fighting and whether Moscow will receive any sanctions relief, the article says. The article also notes that the question of Ukraine's future remains complex. It is not yet known what role the state will play in the Western security architecture and what guarantees will be provided to Kyiv to prevent Russia from attacking again. President Volodymyr Zelenski previously stated that Ukraine needs serious security guarantees. According to Zelensky, the optimal solution could be for the state to join NATO. The Trump administration will present a plan to end the war between Russia and Ukraine on February the 14th to the 16th at the Munich Security Conference, Bloomberg reports, citing anonymous sources. The mechanism is expected to be announced by Keith Kellogg, the U.S. Special Representative for Kiev and Moscow. Elements include potentially freezing the conflict and leaving the territory occupied by Russian troops in limbo, as well as providing security guarantees to Ukraine so that Moscow cannot attack again, the article says. Keith Kellogg will visit Ukraine on February the 20th, Suspiln journalists reported, citing sources in the president's office. This date was proposed by the White House. At the same time, a large number of countries have been involved in diplomatic efforts to end Russia's war against Ukraine. As U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz noted, these efforts are aimed at achieving a just peace.
The International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi arrived in Moscow on Friday, meeting with the head of Rosatom Alexei Likachev to discuss the current state of nuclear security around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant amid the ongoing military conflict between Russia and Ukraine. "The situation, as I was saying, is unprecedented," Grossi said at a news conference following his meeting with Likachev. "The operation of such a biggest in Europe nuclear power plant in the middle of an active combat zone." According to Associated Press, the IAEA chief added that the joint efforts to ensure nuclear security must continue as the military activity around the plant site continues, and in some cases it has been increasing. Likachev meanwhile emphasized the increasing risks for nuclear security at the Kursk and Smolensk nuclear power plants. Over the past months and weeks, there has been an incursion by the Ukrainian armed forces into the Kursk region and the corresponding risks for the Kursk nuclear power plant, he said. There are dozens of downed drones, missiles on approach or towards the Smolensk nuclear power plant, a strike on the energy infrastructure. Grossi visited an electrical substation in the Kiev region of Ukraine Tuesday and said that damage to such key power grid facilities during the war poses a threat to nuclear safety by potentially disrupting vital cooling procedures at atomic plants.
So the situation, as I was saying, unprecedented. The operation of such a biggest in Europe nuclear power plant in the middle of an active combat zone. Our efforts, I should say our common efforts, have been aimed at preventing a nuclear accident with serious radiological consequences. These efforts continue. They must continue. In spite of the passage of time, the military activity around the plant site continues, and in some cases it has been increasing.
На мой взгляд, риски атак со стороны ВСУ нарастают. Мы это видим и в количестве сбитых дронов и ракет, и в количестве артиллерийских ударов, которые приходятся на территорию, практически примыкающую к ЗАЭС, и это вызывает озабоченность. Как вызывает озабоченность и то давление, которое сегодня есть на персонал, угрозы, террористические атаки. Конечно же, все это нарушение принципов безопасности МАГАТЭ. Второй момент очень важный. Это расширение рисков за последние месяцы и недели. Это вторжение ВСУ в Курскую область и соответствующие риски для Курской АЭС. Это десятки сбитых дронов, ракет на подлетах или в сторону Смоленской атомной электростанции, удар по энергетической инфраструктуре. Все это, к сожалению, повышает риски ядерной безопасности, требует от нас соответствующих действий и требует соответствующей реакции МАГАТЭ. Информация доведена, и мы ценим участие МАГАТЭ в этой работе. Спасибо большое, коллеги.